president has the authority to make this national emergency declaration?
Because the United States Code says so.
You, though, have had a long record of being opposed to what you call executive overreach. The 2015 version of Congressman Mo Brooks signed on to an amicus brief that had real issues when the president, then Obama, used executive authority. Let me read you part of that. It says, "This is not a partisan issue. When one branch of the government unconstitutionally usurps the powers of another, it affects all Americans because it threatens the very core of our system of checks and balances that has served our government and America so well for so long. If the president can unilaterally change the law as he says he can, why then did America's founders create Congress? Why does it appear you have one set of rules for President Obama and another for President Trump?"
Well, John, once again, you guys at CNN are misleading the public. Those are different circumstances than what we face today. What we're facing today is a national emergency of major proportions, and Congress has delegated to the President of the United States the right, and it's expressed in the United States Code, you can look it up yourself, the right to declare a national emergency under certain circumstances. This meets that bill. So if you want to talk apples and apples, let's do it. But don't make up stuff and try to mislead the public.
I'm not making up stuff, and I'll get to why I'm not. What's the emergency?
Let's look at 9/11 by way of example. We lost 3,000 people, more or less, on 9/11. That justified going to war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and our troops are still there to varying degrees. 3,000. With the southern border, we had the loss of at least 15,000 Americans a year.
By what?
That's part of the justification.
By what?
You have 2,000 that are homicides by illegal aliens, according to federal government data. You've got another 16,000 that die each year from heroin overdoses, 90% of which comes across our porous southern border.
All right.
That's not counting the 55,000 additional deaths that are caused by overdoses,
Let me take
a
those
significant
statistics.
amount of which comes across the southern border.
So
how many dead people do you have to have, John,
Let me take those statistics. Let me take those statistics one at a time. Yes, the predominant amount of heroin does come over the southern border, but the vast majority of it comes at ports of entry, number one. Number two, you said there are those people who have died at the hands of undocumented immigrants. Let me put up this chart. The crime rate among undocumented immigrants is actually less than, and this includes,
I have looked at those studies.
This is from the Cato Institute.
I have looked at those studies. If you want political propaganda, you go ahead and use it.
This is from the Cato Institute, a libertarian group that okay. So
each and every one of them is flawed.
These studies, which you say flawed, but other people often lean on, note that crime among undocumented immigrants is less than native-born citizens. I will ask you this: if there is a high murder rate among native-born citizens, is that a national emergency?
That is totally immaterial to the issue at hand.
Why?
The issue at hand is how many Americans would be alive today but for our poor southern border, but for illegal aliens and the homicides that they commit upon American citizens.
That homicide rate,
men, women, and children that are losing their lives who would be alive today if we had a border security, if we had a wall, if we had the gumption here in Congress to protect American lives. And right now we don't with the Democrats.
You said the wall. Again, we're talking about drugs. The vast majority comes in at ports of entry, not between the ports of entry, not anywhere that a wall would be. I only know before, and when you're talking about violent crime, when you talk about the crime rate, my question to you again, you're saying people would be alive.
What comes in from Canada and what comes in through ports of entry is not the issue. The issue is what comes in across the southern border and whether we want to continue to enable illegal aliens and drug cartels to take the lives of American citizens through their marketing of these poisonous substances.
You're conflating.
And you may want to trivialize it by talking about other things.
I'm not talking about. I am talking about what you were talking about, sir. You were talking about stuff coming over the southern border. What I am telling people is that the statistics, including the government's own statistics, say most of them come at ports of entry. I think any death is unfortunate. Congressman, let me finish.
You ought to join us and get the Democrats to quit shutting down the government because they refuse to have the kind of border security that will protect American lives.
This is a debate over the wall. This is a debate over a wall right now, Congressman. What you are telling me is a wall.
The wall is a component of that.
Well, the Democrats agreed to $1.3 billion in border security. What they did not agree to was the wall, so that is what the government is shut down over.
I'm sorry, but I've yet to see a Democrat in the halls of Congress that really believes in border security and is willing to do what is necessary to save American lives.
They agreed to 1.3.
They talk about
They agreed to $1.3 billion in border security. Many of them voted over a year ago to a plan that would have provided $25 billion for a border wall that included...
Only in exchange for a vast amount of amnesty for
okay.
potentially millions of individuals.
Which I understand that you, sir, are opposed to, but I want people to know. I do want people to know.
Aliens come across our border to the extent they know that they'll get amnesty when they come here.
Congressman, will a wall stop all heroin from coming over the border?
No, it won't.
Okay.
Nothing stops all of it. We're trying to stop as much as we can to save as many lives as possible.
And I think that is a valid thing. I just want people to know.
If you can solve the problem with 40% or 50% of the problem, does that mean you don't do it because you didn't do 100%? You know, we can't stop all murders in the United States of America, but it doesn't mean that our law enforcement officers give up and don't try at all. We try to save as many Americans as we possibly can with the tools we have in our possession.
The question is,
does it merit, is one of those effective tools.
Does it merit a national emergency declaration? And one of the reasons I showed you the statistics...
I'm sorry, but you're wrong, John. Under the statute, and if you're talking about the statute, the president has the discretion. Under the United States Code, Congress has given him that authority under the United States Code to make this declaration.
Look, I think...
If you want to get into what he can do under the declaration, that's a different subject matter.
Let me just tell you, first of all, I have talked to plenty of lawyers. I have talked to plenty of lawyers who agree with you, who say ultimately when this passes through the courts will determine he has the authority to do so. But there is a difference, sir, between can and should. In the National Review, which I don't think you will call any liberal rag or fake news, which is a term that a lot of people throw around, the National Review says it's an offense against the spirit of our system for a president to fail to get what he wants from Congress in a dispute involving core congressional power, spending, and then turn around and exploit a tenuous reading of the law to try to get it anyway. So the difference here is between can and should. Can the president legally do it? Maybe. We'll see what the courts ultimately say. Should he? Again, Republicans have had a real problem in the past when executive power is used to make an end run around Congress. Republicans like you, sir.
Well, let's talk about different circumstances with Barack Obama, since that's one of the ones you want to bring up. Yes, I believe that it is illegal for Barack Obama on his own to issue work permits in direct conflict with federal statutes, and you've seen federal judges rule in our favor on that, particularly coming out of the state of Texas. So you've got a debate there in the legal system, with various courts reaching different conclusions. But I would argue that there is a huge distinction between unilaterally bombing in Syria, or when there are no national security interests of the United States of America at stake of significance or substance, at least in my judgment, where we should not be going into Syria for the purpose of regime change, which was the stated purpose of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama at various times.
But you're talking about Syria now.
Issuing work permits to illegal aliens in the United States of America when the statute clearly says you can't do it.
Let me go back to this matter of national security right now and the president's determination of what is an emergency or not. Say 5 years from now there's a hurricane, a vast hurricane, and there's a Democratic president who believes that climate change was involved with the hurricane. Thousands of people die from it. Could that president, he or she, then say he needs a national emergency declaration to get money to fight that?
I'm sorry, that was kind of convoluted the way I heard it. Would you please restate it?
The fact of the matter is that the whole argument is convoluted for a National Emergency Act for wall funding also. What I'm saying is if a president can make the claim that national security money, emergency money is needed for a wall, could a president at one point say it's needed to fight climate change?
I would have to look at the specific statutes to see what you can and cannot do. That is so far out there.
Why? If it's a matter of national security, if it is a matter of national security and the president deems it so, why is it outside the purview of the law?
I don't see how that example that you gave affects the national security of the United States of America.
The Pentagon and the intelligence services often talk about the effect of climate change. I'm making a hypothetical argument here.
In this instance, we're talking about protecting the southern border. Any nation to exist has borders. And the primary function of a nation with respect to those borders is to secure them. So that is a matter of national security by definition.
Most illegal immigrants coming to this country on undocumented are coming on overstayed visas, which is something you note. And when we talk about the border, we talk about a border emergency. I will note that the numbers here, coming to the border at or near an historic low, and insofar as it's changed, it's mothers with babies walking and presenting themselves at ports of entry.
I disagree with that data that you've thrown out there. But I'll agree with you that what you've just stated is that the wall is a subpart of our border security crisis. It's a subpart. We've also got the visa overstays, which is why we have to do E-Verify in order to ensure that illegal aliens in the United States of America do not take jobs from American citizens.
Will the wall keep them out?
Do not flood the labor market.